listening to Around Comics. And you are also watching Around Comics if you happen to be watching it right now on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or Twitch or we're not on Instagram. We are on Instagram, but not on Instagram. Anyway, you are listening to Around Comics, the comic book podcast, where we talk about everything in and around the world of comics. I'm Brian Salazar. With me, as always, is Christopher Niesman and
Faces
Tom.
Faces for radio.
Yeah. We definitely have many more audio subscribers than video. We're not really.
It's probably for the best.
I think we need to go back to the old days where I challenged other YouTuber podcasters to fight. Like I could be like, I was doing Jake Paul before Jake Paul. I was challenging podcasters to fight.
Also getting your ass whipped when it mattered.
Now I'm too old.
Too old for that game.
What's up, gentlemen? Welcome to episode 375. Heroes don't do that.
We're here. We're here.
We're live.
Yeah. I'm ready to start with an all-new number one. Can we start with an all-new number one?
No, we can't start with an all-new number one. We are on 375. We haven't even gotten to 400 episodes.
That's bullshit. We way over 400 with all the specials and the extras and all that. We're at least 600.
Those aren't in canon.
It feels like so many more.
Those are annuals and like
legends. Those are legends, not canon.
Elseworlds. They're Elseworld stories.
Yeah.
Where Chris talks to Chris Staros. Which, speaking of, that just dropped today. We promised.
Finally.
I know it was. Well, here's the thing. So Chris Staros started doing one-on-one comics coaching, and kind of like his pandemic way to stay involved and do portfolio reviews, and it's like $100 for like an hour of in-depth one-on-one comics coaching. And knowing Chris, he probably goes over in time because he's that cool. But yeah, so if you're an aspiring comic book artist or creator, because I think he does script reviews as well, you head on over to chrisstaros.com and information there. But we did this awesome little 10-minute interview. But if you want to hear the full 30-minute interview, which we get into Top Shelf and some of the creators like Jeff Lemire and Matt Kent, who had started there, and just talking about like the pre and now post-pandemic world of comic publishing, you can check that out at patreon.com/aroundcomics. It was good. It was a nice chat, and I miss Chris because he's such a great guy.
I have not had a chance to listen to it, but
yeah, you'll like it. I think you'll dig it. And then Tom, you've got a Tom versus this week.
Yeah, it's up there.
I have to put it up. I have not had an opportunity yet.
I literally just did it.
Just now.
Nice. Loaded it up.
Nice.
It's there.
Nice.
It's waiting.
How's everybody doing?
I have pulled rib muscles. I think I tore rib muscle cartilage or something.
Nice.
Other than that, not bad. Hanging in there. Pretty good.
Nice.
Yeah, me too. Tore some.
Tom, I never worry about you, but I mean, come on. Look at Sal.
I'm good. Yeah.
If anyone's gonna go, it's one of us two.
Hey,
I think we know who it is.
I think we're the odds favorite. No, I have bad genetics, so I'm probably short on the list.
Yeah, but I have bad life. I have bad life habits.
The Around Comics death pool.
Yeah, who's gonna go first?
Everybody.
Which one of us goes?
Got a feeling I'm the favorite. So anyway, we're going to talk about some comics. I'm actually I think I told Marta this is probably the most unprepared I've ever been for an episode of Around Comics.
Don't sell yourself short. You've been
I've
way.
I'm a little surprised. I feel like do you prepare that much?
Wow.
I'm a little. I guess I'm just a little surprised.
Chris used
Touche.
to.
Yeah.
Oh God, you remember back in the day? I mean, we would come into a show. I'd have probably anywhere from 12 to 20 pages of
Fucking
notes and the entire like show runner stuff. Yeah, it was. I'd have the news from the week printed out that we would go over. Now I don't pay attention to any of it, and then I get a text from Sal. It's like, so have you heard about this Batman going down on Catwoman stuff?
Batlash. It's
Batlash. Look, no, sorry, missed that one. So should we start on that? Should we start on
you want to talk about
bat cat oral sex?
Yeah, sure.
Fill me in. What's going on?
Catalingus. Yeah, like that. I guess the showrunners for the Harley Quinn cartoon,
which is brilliant,
which is hilarious and very graphic and lots of bad stuff happens that it's not made for kids.
Yeah.
They had a scene where Harley, I think, walked in on Batman going down on Catwoman, and
that would be a very Harley Quinn show thing to do.
And the DC powers that be were like, no, not going to happen. Sorry, we can't let And they asked why, and they're like, well, heroes don't do that. and I get what they're and
I think like every woman that I've ever met would say that is false. That is exactly what heroes do.
And there was a lot of that on Twitter. There was a lot of people either complaining about it or joking about it. But it was all what struck me as funny is that, and I said on Twitter, it's like, no matter what gender or identity or race or where you come from, if you're a comic book nerd, you are a horny, awkward dork. You just have no and you're creepy, and it's creepy that you either are
Batman. Yeah, Batman would do that.
Yeah.
Well, the question is, was he in costume? And I think the answer to that is probably yes.
I find it funny that and a lot of it was like sort of the same people that would complain about like Power Girl's boob window costume, but they're obsessed with the fact that Batman should eat Catwoman's box. Like that's what they're obsessed with. That's okay. So it's just a ridiculous sort of
it sounds hilarious.
I mean, it is funny when you think about
it is.
It is funny when you think about like the incredible graphic violence Batman has been involved in, and just like think of like Dark Knight, just like snapping dudes' arms, and just I
would say that's not made for kids either. I don't know.
It's our very American weird violence is extremely okay.
Yeah,
and sex is like strangely
taboo.
I forgot what documentary it was, but they were talking about. It was a rock and roll or punk documentary, and they're talking about the early years of Alice Cooper.
Garfunkel.
But no, Alice Cooper started out as this like glam cross-dressing band. Like early Alice Cooper. They weren't doing the horror thing. It was a glam like cross. They were wearing dresses, and just absolutely not palatable for the American consumer. Whenever they did the horror thing, then it took off, and I think that's so. To back up Tom, we're really good at like grotesque horror and violence, but anything that is
Batman definitely has sex.
Yeah, Batman has sex.
Yeah,
Batman munch.
Batman. Yeah,
Fox.
Batman. Oral sex. Batman.
Yeah.
Well, I can I certainly agree with both of you on that. I do think that part of it is like at least with a cartoon or to some degree, the hyper violence, I guess, I don't know, it's to me, or like horror is easier to sort of shrug away, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
then it you know, the idea of like Batman's just like head bopping up and down, you know.
Well,
like,
I mean that goes back to the whole, and I think Batman more than any other mainstream superhero, there's a lot of discussion on his celibacy or not celibacy. I think we talked to Rucka about this way back in the day. It's like, does does Bruce Wayne even have a sexual relationship with anyone?
Batman fucks. Let's get
well,
this guy.
2 points I would bring up. One, Batman's a billionaire and billionaires don't need to give head. And two,
wow,
Catwoman walks around and
maybe he's just a giving person.
Catwoman walks around in leather pants for like 18 hours a day. I really can't
shower first.
Yeah. No, I don't know. It's so ridiculous. Yeah. The whole thing is so ridiculous, but it's just as funny to me, like that people get upset about it and yet it's like, haven't we already gone through this? Like, didn't we know it was creepy, sure, like to talk about? I don't know.
I feel bad for the wives of whoever these Warner Brothers executives, if they're men. Who had
they're getting it somewhere
immediate
else.
Yeah, it's just funny.
Yeah, it is. It probably not worth talking about. So how about we talk about some actual comics?
Let's talk about some cunnilingus and some classic oral sex scenes.
I read Black Kiss this week.
No, Sal, you said that you had read a couple things that I have not heard about. So it's probably stuff that came up on Future Stacks this week.
Future Stacks? No, there was no Future Stacks. Thanks for appreciate it. Thanks for rubbing that.
I feel like it's a sign of the end times. Like
thanks for rubbing my face in it, Chris. Pun intended.
I actually had Patreon content this week, so
the future is so bleak. It's pointless to try and guess what'll happen in a few days because who knows.
Every week I just do like 10 minutes of just give up. Why are you comics?
Are we even going to be here on Wednesday?
Yeah, don't bother.
Or whatever.
Forget it. Just forget it all.
Sucks. They're all bad this week. My guess is they're all bad.
Comics are terrible. Future Stacks. No, I read. Well, I caught up on. I think I had mentioned this book before. I was reading James Bond, Agent of Spectre, and the 4th issue came out, and I had caught up. I read issue 1 and 2, and so then I caught up on 3 and 4. And Christos Gage is a really good Bond writer. Like he's writing a very good. Yeah. Just a really good Bond story. Like this could
Christos Gage is just a good writer.
Yeah, and this could easily be a Bond movie. I mean, he's doing. Although the only thing I would say, it almost feels like it would be an earlier, but like a young Bond story, but it's actually an older Bond portrayed in the story. But. The basic story is him. He's chasing down Spectre, and then he finds out that Blofeld has actually set a trap for him, but not to kill you, Bond, but to offer him a deal. He basically offers James $15 million to kill a rival of his in Spectre, and James Bond agrees. But of course it's James Bond, so there's more to it than just that, and it's this really great just action adventure and intrigue, and you're not sure where the story is going to go, and all these amazing interactions, and it's very Bondy comic book, but the art is I think what's his name? I never remember his name. He did those great Garth Ennis Punisher books, and
Steve Dillon.
No.
Jim Davis,
No.
Garfield.
Yeah, Jim Davis came out of retirement.
Oh, that's chill.
No, gosh, what's his name?
Wait, so you're
it's not actually, but it really looks like his art. The artist's name is Luca Casalanguida.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
But it really looks a lot like the guy. What was the Punisher?
Oh gosh, hold on, Goran Parlov.
Goran, yes, he really is.
I had to dig deep for that, Sal. You get one of those an episode.
Google.
I did not Google it. I pulled that right out of my ass.
It looks a lot like Goran Parlov's arts, which I love.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Really good.
I think he did a Queen and Country arc.
He's
He's great. Yeah, he's awesome.
You would know. You'd be the one I'd go to.
Right? And it's got some great covers. It has one cover that is by Aaron Lepresti, and it's a Steranko homage, and it's really beautiful. But yeah, it's just a really good, like if you like James Bond or espionage action stuff, it's just a very solid, fun James Bond story. Yeah,
and I don't know. That's kind of how I would describe Christos Gage as a writer. He always gives you it's gonna be super solid, make sense, be well paced, good dialogue. I think he's one of those overlooked writers from the last decade. I've enjoyed everything that I've read from Christos Gage, and he does a lot of IP stuff, G.I. Joe, but didn't he did. And this is going back a long ways. He was doing a lot of Marvel stuff, like the Civil War era stuff. But I always liked his work.
Yeah, I don't remember, but yeah, he's just super solid. It was probably like midway through the third issue, and I'm like, this is a really good Bond story. It just sort of hit me. It's like, this is really good. This is
hell yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly what I did.
Children,
I fist pumped a couple.
Kids, come here. This is a good James Bond story.
This is James Bond. I don't know.
Maybe Amazon can turn it into a James Bond
film. Did they?
Now that they bought MGM or whatever.
Oh, shit! That happened, didn't it? Yeah. Does that come with the Broccoli family stuff? I don't think so. I do not think so, Tom. I think I heard an NPR story that the Bond stuff is not included in that.
Oh my God! Okay, whatever.
Yeah, because it's the Broccoli family that owns the film rights to that.
I always thought that was the funniest thing of a James Bond movie, was when you would see the Broccoli name come up as executive. It's like, that's what a dumb name. You have the dumbest name, people. You're Broccoli. Yeah. You're named after a horrible vegetable.
Yeah. Every movie, though. Every movie.
It's always there. The broccoli.
Mm-hmm.
Does Amazon now own MGM resorts and hotels? Or
probably,
is it just,
yeah. I would imagine.
I mean, it's still in the process of being
figured out.
Done. Yeah.
Finalized.
Cool. That means all that shit's going to Amazon Prime. Their movie catalog just got huge.
Yeah,
I don't care. It's I mean, the corporate the corporate takeover is going to happen probably in my 70s or 80s. At this point, I don't care. I'm just going to buy into it because I want to watch movies and TV and
it already
all of that. So I'm sorry for your children, both of you. So
speaking of corporate takeover, no, actually, I wanted to go back to something you had talked about earlier. I just wanted to, before I forget. On Apple TV, there's a documentary I started watching that I think you'll like, called 1971, the year of music that changed the world, or something like that.
Yeah, it's
really good. Really,
music. Yeah, is it good?
It's excellent. It's I haven't watched the whole thing, but what I watched,
I'm shocked because for you that's pre-punk, so I would imagine that you would not care about it as much.
Oh, I'm a huge classic rock fan. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Classic rock and punk. I don't just like punk. I mean,
because that would be too punk.
well, one of the main narrators is Chrissy Hine.
Oh yeah,
and it starts off with her telling a story of which I didn't know about her, of her like getting gassed at Kent State. And,
she was at Kent State.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, she's from Ohio.
She was at Kent State, and she got gassed, and it was just like, and she was that's how the documentary opens, is her telling
which was 68, early 69.
You're gonna make me I don't remember.
It's time to search Google.
68. I think it was 68. It was the year Woodstock, which was 68.
I thought that was 69.
No, god damn it. Sorry.
1970, guys. May 4th, 1970.
Was Kent
State?
Yeah.
Oh. When was Woodstock?
That was 69. Wasn't it?
History, guys.
1959.
Yeah. No, but just because the CSNY song that references Kent State, I thought they played that at Woodstock. Way off. Okay, whatever.
That'd be pretty fucking
Moving on.
Holy shit, guys! I always knew Crosby, Stills, Nash, and
your song.
Yeah,
Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. I was always suspicious.
And it's Crosby, Stills. It's Crosby, Stills, Nash, and sometimes Young.
Sometimes Young, especially that Graham Nash, squirrely little British guy.
British dude, what was he doing in that band?
Yeah, what the fuck was he doing? And
creep.
Don't trust Steven Stills either. Anyway, they caused it. They sang that song, like when they sang that song on Woodstock, everyone was like, "What the fuck is this about it?" And they're like, wait, just wait, guys. You're gonna find out.
You're gonna love this. It's gonna be amazing.
Yeah.
Didn't Dead in Ohio? What?
Yeah, that's the song. Yeah. Did Pfeiffer go to Kent State?
Why do you keep asking me questions? I have no memory. I'm 50 years old. I fucking know where Will Pfeiffer went.
Tell me where.
He certainly didn't go in 1971 or 1970.
No, he was just a baby. That's ridiculous. But I think he went to Kent.
Oh, for God's sake. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, Tom, did you read any comics this week?
I read Crosby, Stills, and Nash comic book. No. I caught up on Strange Adventures. I'm looking up to see if Crosby, Stills, and Nash sang that song at Woodstock.
No, there's no way it's impossible that they sang it at Woodstock.
I'm just saying, guys.
What's the name of the song?
Let's get off of this, please. I never want to talk this much about Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
Watch the documentary. It's in it.
Thank you, Sal. Watch it.
Cop on Strange Adventures.
When you say
Ohio is the name of the song. I'm sorry.
This is what we get when Chris doesn't read any
comic books all
week. He talks nonsense.
Sal, you're you're in charge tonight, Sal. It is your job to keep this thing on the rails.
Turns out the preparation is like, don't talk about Crosby, Stills, and Nash the whole fucking time. Gotta be prepared. Other topics other than Crosby, Stills, Nash. So yeah, I read up to issue 10. Is that the newest one?
I believe so.
There's a couple behind. Yeah, it's good in the Tom King corner. You know.
I think I'm behind an issue.
Oh, I won't spoil it for you. It's fucked up though, man.
Oh shit.
Yeah, it's like when Crosby, Stills, and Nash sang that song. It's stuck. Wow. Same thing. Wow. Weird. No, Tom King, doing fucked up shit to characters.
And
that's what he does.
Kind of what he does.
It's his thing. That's his corner. He owns that.
What's Mr. Miracle's safe word? If we're talking about
samurai.
Mr. Miracle? That guy fucks.
No, he's into bondage. I mean, come on.
No. And Adam Strange.
He's got a big old wife, Big Barda. I mean, her name is literally big in the internet.
It's like Adam Strange. So of course he had to leave Earth. He was probably Earth virgin.
Earth virgin.
Has never had sex on Earth, only on a foreign planet.
Chicks are easy on.
Yeah. Does that mean technically he's still an Earth virgin?
He is an Earth virgin. I mean, that's how I choose to interpret the story. Is that it's mostly about? I mean, in a sense, the story is about like a dude who's never did shit on Earth, who's a hero someplace else.
Yeah,
I mean, it is. That's what the story's about.
I mean, it's. I mean, if you look at it, that is like prime teenage boy fantasy. Is I'm in nothing here, but somewhere else I'm like a god.
That's all comic books. What do you think? Sure. I mean, that's what
that's the alter.
I always loved Reed Richards because I always want to be a workaholic. I want to neglect my family.
Nobody could stretch, and he had this beautiful hot blonde wife.
I always wanted my wife to come in, and I'm like working, and my beard is longer, and I'm like, I've almost solved it. And then like I shrink my family and like send them into an alternate dimension or something.
That's like dinner at the Cater's household.
Yeah,
I see you doing that in the kitchen. I've almost solved it.
I almost have it. I've been working for 72 hours straight. I've almost solved this problem. But yeah, like any Tom King book, it's kind of funny we're talking about violence being so inherent to comics, right? Like it's comics are built around violence. Like if you didn't have violence in comics, like what the fuck would you have? It's like about Batman beating the shit out of bad guys, or like that's the very heart of it. So
Superman punching slumlords.
Yeah, and like ripping up robots and shit. That's what it's all about, is violence. And I think the cool thing he's done with Strange Adventures is like he sets it very early that something very fucked up has happened, and you don't know what it is quite yet, but someone did something bad, and like he kind of draws it out for a while of like who is what did Adam Strange do? What did his wife do? Like what is the thing that we don't know yet? And in the last issue, we kind of maybe start to see what the thing is that we don't know, about Adam Strange. And it's bad.
He doesn't go down.
Yeah, he doesn't. Also, he does not perform oral sex.
No DC heroes.
No DC heroes do. None of them.
Heroes don't do that.
Heroes don't do that. But yeah, it's good. Lots of good art.
Yeah,
it has something to do with their kid, right? Because that's they continue to sort of, she's gone. They say she's dead,
killed by the Picts, perhaps, but you don't know exactly. Sure. So yeah, it's been cool. Like reading it, knowing something bad has happened, and you don't quite know what it is, and like you keep kind of circling around what it could be, and now you're starting to kind of find out.
Just get to the point, Tom.
What King. It is? Yeah, come on, Tom King. What the fuck, dude? 10 issues of this shit. God damn it! Waiting. Tell me what happened. Did he kill her?
Did someone kill? Do you think with this story? I mean, I think Tom's so good, and obviously Doc Shaner and
Mitch.
Yeah, Mitch, great team.
Jared's.
They're so good at what they do that while you're sitting waiting for sort of the answer, that doesn't I don't know that's like it's the journey, right? A little bit more so than necessarily that final. Or do you think people will of course people will find a way to be disappointed, because that's what we do as comic book fans, but he's sort of building up. He does this with a lot of his books, where he kind of gives you this mystery. They're all sort of, whether it's Mr. Miracle, whether it's Sheriff of Baghdad, Vision. It's like there's this mystery that you're waiting for, and eventually he does tell you what it is. Yeah, Rorschach is another one. Like he's peeling this onion as he tells the story, but it's really kind of the personally for me, it's that he's so good at doing it. They're so good, the artists and him working together are so good at it that it's like, I don't even. It's like it's a bonus. It's a cherry on top, like that. The end. Like I don't think with Mr. Miracle, I never really figured out that book. I have to read that book again because I never quite figured it out.
It's a shame that book ultimately its end kind of got tied into what was happening in DC at the time.
Yeah.
Because like nobody gives a fuck about what they were doing anymore because it's been more than like 2 years. So who gives a shit about, whatever event was happening, So like, I always thought the end of that was a little bit like
convoluted
because they tried to fit it in kind of a little bit. And I think there's a simpler, that's still my favorite Tom King thing and Mitch Gerard's thing is the Mr. Miracle episode. I think it's such a good, it has like a little bit of positivity to it. In the end, Mr. Miracle kind of like chooses not to escape. And that's okay. That's like what he's all right being trapped in sort of this world that's not like totally real. Like he accepts it. Like
accepts his fate.
Yeah, and it's like kind of positive in a way, of like, but so much of that book and so much of all the books he deals with is, like the comics are full of violence, right? And it's casual the way we treat violence in comics, but like violence has an actual cost to people, like not just the victims of violence, but people that whether you perpetrate violence, whether you've done something violent because you think you're right or because you think you've been put in a position where you have to do it, or maybe you're just a violent person or whatever it is, there's a cost to that comics don't usually talk about, right? Like when Batman beats the shit out of a guy, like that's just kind of it, and it's not about like, well, actually, if you're somebody who does this all the time, right? If you're, Adam Strange and you've participated in this war where you did all these terrible things, like what's the cost of that? Of like doing these terrible things? Like, were you right to do them? Were you like, like I find that thread, and even in Rorschach too, about like the idea of like when you commit an act of violence, like it lingers. It doesn't just disappear when it's done like it does in a comic book. Like it is part of you, and like it influences everything you do, right? And it's like that's so much of what the Adam Strange book is about. Is like who's this guy who's a hero? He's like the model citizen. He goes off to this other world and saves everything, and we're all supposed to look up to him. But he's done something terrible, then you don't quite know what it is the whole time. But you're led to believe like something isn't adding up. Like like something's happened. Like you're not quite sure what it is.
It's not. Well, it's very much. I would say a large portion of the American people's feeling on, the last, most of the last major conflicts that the U.S. has been in. The military, the U.S. military has been in. It's like, you're telling us this, there's yellow cake, plutonium. You're telling us there's weapons of mass destruction. You're telling us that there are atrocities being committed. You're telling us that we're there for these good reasons. You're telling us, but we know there's something, and whether or not we know it and accept it and sort of, just sort of live with the delusion of it, of like, listen, it is what it is. I like my iPhone and I accept the fact that somewhere there's someone I don't know who's probably a child making pennies a day that, what I mean? It's that sort of like, as Americans, especially more than maybe most other countries, not all, but most, that we're aware that there's something wrong. And yet it's this living with that uneasy feeling, living with that, whether you accept it or whether you fight against it, it's there.
Well, and also in the last issue, he gets really to the point about sort of like not only that uneasiness, because it kind of works on two layers, right? There's the things that the interesting thing about this story, right, is the stuff you know and the stuff you don't know, right? And there's sort of a meaning behind the stuff that the mystery, and a meaning behind what you know what Adam Strange did, right? So the story, there's this alien race that's invading Earth called the Picts, and Adam Strange fought them on Ran and drove them off, and like the Justice League believe that he's committed, so he's done something terrible to defeat
during
them,
that
right?
time.
During that time, right? And they really lean into it in the book where they show people on Earth are like, well, maybe we need someone like Adam Strange and to like do that, right? So it's like sort of like this, there's the uneasiness of like some people embrace that uneasiness as like that might be the solution. But then there's also like the other layer of the story where it's like we don't know yet really what he did. You think you know what he did, but something more awful might have happened. So it's just interesting the way they've sort of played it out and like drawn it out. And there's just that whole book is so uneasy when you read it because you kind of feel like you're about to find something out bad, really bad, and like you don't know when it's coming, right? So it's sort of 10, you kind of start getting to it.
Do you really want to know?
Yeah, and 10, there's a reveal. I'm not going to spoil it for you, right? But like a reveal of what it could be that Adam Strange did, which is terrible. And like you start to be like, oh my, who knows? 2 more issues left. Maybe that isn't,
Right.
What the thing is.
The hardcover.
Well, it is, I think we talked about this before. It's like Tom writes very complex books in the sense of like he's not, most of his books are not dealing with the typical sort of good guy versus bad guy. Batman beats up the Joker, or whatever, that kind of a thing. The black and white area of of fiction, especially superhero fiction. He's dealing with the grays in between of real life, and that's not for everybody. I mean, I think a lot of people, a lot of comic book fans especially, I think, read for more of a escapist enjoyment than and there's nothing wrong there.
Tom can kind of be like watching the news because it's so in the moment in a lot of it feels that way.
It's like it's not always easy to deal with existential crisis, of like,
sure.
Do you know what your government's doing? Do you know what your heroes are really doing to be heroes? Do you know what, what I mean? It's the reason why it's the reason why Blue Lives Matter exists, because people can't accept or don't want to deal with the idea that the people that protect them or that they've been told have protected them are also
may not be the good guys, in every instance.
So it's that it's cognitive dissonance and it's difficult, and it's also complex. It's like
I would love to ask Tom if this is therapeutic for him because he's ex-CIA. Is this a way of him kind of like exercising the stuff that he's been around and known for a long time? You know what I mean?
Is it him dealing with his PTSD?
But I also want to say that they do like a really great job of you think the way they split the art between Doc Shaner and Mitch, like you think Doc Shaner's doing the heroic stuff, but it turns out that's not the heroic stuff. That's the bad stuff that you're slowly starting to realize is the story about what's the awful thing that.
I don't think I always took it as like it's their version.
Yeah.
They see it through Doc Shaner's. Very nostalgic.
And at first you're kind of like, oh, I see where the division is, but as you go farther along, you start to get like, wait a second, like this isn't matching up. Like something here is, you're not getting. That's not the true story, right? Like that's the part that like in the last issue, like stuff happens that you're like, oh, this doesn't seem super heroic. This seems like there's a slide, right, of like things that happen where where you feel like maybe you've been sort of like, oh, the parts where we're looking at Mitch's art is sort of like, this is the weird gray area, like reality, and the nostalgic sort of view of like Adam Strange being the hero. And you're starting to realize that isn't such a clean division between those two styles of art. Like they've been sort of mixed the whole time, and you've slowly, or at least I've slowly started to realize, we've been sort of sliding into like, actually this part,
the horror of
it's going to be the bad part. Like we're going to get to like what's going to happen. Yeah. So I just think that's been like a really interesting way of like almost a misdirect with the style of art of like, okay, like I thought it was this, but as you go along, you're starting to realize it's either a lie or you're going to get, or even like, like I said in the last issue, you kind of start getting like, okay, like this seems like not very heroic all the time.
I found it interesting. Like I said, I think I'm on issue 9, and the sort of some of the uneasiness for me is like watching, what it looks like his wife, Princess, whatever,
Alina, I forget,
something like that.
Amidala.
How she's, complicit and possibly the motivation behind, whatever this horrible thing is. You know what I mean? She's very, I don't know the word. She's very patriotic for Ran. Seemingly, is gymnastic. She's, that she's very gymnastic. She believes that the Pike are evil and that's it. There is no, they're the good guys. We're the good guys. They're the bad guys. There's no in between, and they must be destroyed. And that's been an interesting thing, him using her in that way, and which I wouldn't expect necessarily in this sort of day and age. Like for if you're going to use her, which in times past in comics, past is like that character was just there for Adam
to be rescued.
Yeah, to be rescued. Exactly. Like
every like herself. She has no character. She's had no character.
And so, it's like, she has a much bigger part of this, but it's like, this isn't a heroic moment for her. They're both, possibly, horrible, or she may even be more. She may be manipulating him and sort of dictating his. She's certainly protecting his image now. She's certainly doing, a lot of kind of underhanded things to protect his image. So it's a real interesting story so far. And like I said, you don't see many other superhero stories along these lines, this complexity of things. And we've talked about Tom King
too much,
probably at this point too much. I mean, maybe more than any other writer, in recent years since we've come back. Like he's certainly given us a lot to talk about, though.
He always makes you think.
Yeah, sometimes too much. God damn it, Tom.
Tom, I just want to sit back and relax. Just punch somebody.
Confront your complicitness in violence.
Right. Joe G says, it used to be that the JLA could repel a whole alien invasion without any casualties on either side.
Hey, that comes up in issue 10.
Oh, does it?
Yeah. It's pretty funny. It's interesting the way he handles.
And Wayne Massot wanted to let us know that the song you were looking for was Woodstock.
That's what I thought.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
I'm kidding. I read another book.
It's Ohio. The name of the song is Ohio.
Yeah.
I read another book which was pretty interesting, and it's sort of it's similar in very tertiary way to Adam Strange. It's called the Six Sidekicks of. Now I can't even remember the goddamn Trigger. Oh gosh, I should really look this up. Trigger Watson or something like that. Or Trigger Keaton. The Six Sidekicks of Trigger Keaton. And I really had fun reading this book. It's basically the idea is it's written by Kyle Starks with art by Chris Schweitzer. It is an image book. It's the first issue, I think, of 4. And basically the idea is there's this rough and tumble cowboy guy named Trigger Keaton who makes a shit ton of like 70s and 80s action movies. He's a huge action star, although they don't really place it in that time frame. They don't ever, I don't think, explicitly say what year it is that you're reading this book, but you get that feeling. And over the years, he's had different sidekicks for the movies, and he treats them all like shit. He's just an asshole, and he kind of treats everybody like shit. And then he ends up dead. And the one sidekick, the former sidekick, kind of plays detective and figures out that he was murdered. So now he's trying to get the rest of the sidekicks to help solve the murder. And it was in the same way of like, kind of looking at like Hollywood the same way that Tom King is looking at Dr. Adam Strange, looking at sort of like action stars, or maybe a John Wayne or probably John Wayne. That's probably the most, sort of comparable, I would think. But and then all the sort of sidekicks that he had throughout the years of different movies, and maybe they portray someone on a screen and everyone loves them, but the way that they treat people in real life is not always the best. And the story is interesting because it's like, well, why do you even want to know who killed this guy? Why do you even care? He was such an asshole. But it's a really funny book. I mean, it's not deep in the sense of like Strange Adventures is. It doesn't have that sort of complexity to it. It's much simpler. It's much more kind of it's actually I think Kyle Starks has written a lot of animation because it has a very like Adult Swim sort of feel to it, even the art style a little bit, but the dialogue specifically, it felt very much like a cartoon, like an BoJack Horseman or something like that, where real sort of snappy, one-liners. Yeah, a lot of reverend stuff. So real funny though, and it was it was a I don't know. Yeah, if you like Adult Swim stuff like that, I think you'll like this book. That's all I can really. It was fun. It was a fun sort of adult, and some action, a lot of fighting and stuff in it. Some of it real, some of it fake, kind of thing.
I've yet to finish BoJack Horseman. It is the show that I watch whenever I'm on an airplane, and it's the only time I watch it. And I binge watch BoJack Horseman on airplanes, but it's the only place I ever watch it.
BoJack Horseman is maybe the only show where I always watch the intro, the titles, the song.
Oh, it's amazing! It's awesome.
But it's the same thing.
It's fucking groovy and hypnotic.
It really is, and it also is like the perfect feel. Like it has the absolute most amazing vibe of that show. Like it tells you exactly what that show is.
Yeah.
with that song, that weird like layered.
It's like an altered state of being song.
Yeah, and him just sort of floating through everything.
It's the song sounds like it's being played backwards.
Yeah,
right.
Interesting. But I always watch it. I've watched. I haven't finished that series, but I've watched a lot of episodes, and I found myself always watching the intro. I'm like, I really like this. I don't know why I like this so much.
Yeah.
It's very.
I'm watching the episode where BoJack is trying to be a better person, but his vices pull him down. That's the episode I'm watching.
Isn't that all of them? That's
it's kind of like the episode of Three's Company where there's a misunderstanding.
Gotcha. Wayne asks, wasn't the Kubert's Adam Strange Prestige miniseries a bit dark like Truman's Hawkworld? I don't know.
Can't remember.
I don't know if I ever read that or not.
Wayne, you just proved your comics fandom probably trumps mine, if not all three of us at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know that I ever read that book.
I don't think I read either one.
I think I did, and I don't remember it.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's been so many.
The Man of Two Worlds, was that?
There's been kind of always a lot of trying to make Adam Strange more interesting.
I still like the original ones. It's who did those? Sorry, Tom, I'm going to the bookshelf.
It's Carmine Infantino did the art.
It's Carmine, yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting that Adam Strange is even
write those?
No. I think John Broome wrote them.
Let me see here.
You know what I mean? Like,
I think that's just off the top of my head. Gardner Fox.
Yeah. Is that he's your favorite because every Gardner Fox character sounds pretty much exactly the same?
Yeah. Always.
Just like Gardner Fox. Great covers on the
cover. The covers are always the fucking best. Here's
yeah.
I mean,
great covers.
Awesome covers.
But yeah, I don't know that I've ever really read much Adam Strange, to be honest. I've always found him to be kind of a blah character. I don't know. I think I like what's the character from Black Hammer that's basically Adam Strange?
Yeah. Colonel Weird.
Colonel Weird. I like Colonel Weird better.
Is that I pulled that name out. I don't know if that's
it is Colonel Weird. And yeah, he's probably a more realistic Adam Strange because you do that stuff and yeah, you're gonna absolutely lose your mind. And he was the original Colonel Weird, wasn't really that great of a guy either.
Are any of us really that creative?
No, I'm a dick.
Well, Joe G says Kubert's Adam Strange was everyone on Ran was crazy except Adam. Which
fun story.
Isn't that? Yeah, I think that kind of sums up a war. Maybe everyone's crazy but you. Yeah, I'm trying to think of like if I've ever really read any extended amount of Adam Strange other than this series. I don't know that I have.
Yeah, he'd like pop up in Justice League and stuff.
Oh gosh, no, there was the Pascal. What's the no, there Planet Heist was awesome. And who was the artist that did Planet Heist?
I don't Jude, I don't remember anything.
I'm looking to see if
was there Adam Strange stuff in the Wednesday comics?
Yeah, I think so. Tom, you read Planet Heist, right?
Yeah, like 10 years ago, probably last time I read it. Yeah.
But yeah, it was really good, and it was the artist, and I haven't seen him do stuff in a long. Andy Diggle wrote it. God, who's the artist on it? Andy Diggle wrote it.
Jock.
Pascal Ferry.
That's what I said.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
You said no.
No,
you said Pascal. I said Ferry. You said no.
Oh.
No.
Sorry. Yes, it was Pascal Ferry. When was the last time you saw Pascal Ferry doing mainstream comics work? That dude was awesome.
Yeah,
Right, he's still awesome.
You just keep asking me questions I have no answer for.
Tell me. I do that with my wife all the time. She's like, "You have a supercomputer sitting a foot away from you. Stop asking me."
I would have to agree with her. Stop asking me questions I don't know the answer to, Chris.
Can't answer it.
It's called Google, asshole.
What year was Kent State?
1971 or 19.
No,
19,
you're wrong
No.
again.
1970. The song
We just went
Ohio
over this.
came out in 1971. So, sorry.
Oh my goodness. At Woodstock.
No, but yes, I'm sorry. I got my timeline fucked up.
Let's wrap this up.
Chris, what have you read this week?
I think I mentioned it last week. Kind of went back in time, back to the well of
Back in
Mr. Alan Moore. I had never read 1963. I had never even heard of 1963, which was a 4-issue series. I believe it's 4 issues. I just read the first
for Kent State.
Shut up. It came through Image Comics, and it was drawn by who did the art? Dave Gibbons did the inks, and he was inking over. See, I told you I was unprepared. Rick Veitch. It's Rick Veitch with Dave Gibbons inks, and it's a mini series that Alan Moore did. That it's kind of
clicking.
It's kind of I'm sorry, I was clicking through pages. Alan Moore's take on the early Marvel universe, and the first one is kind of his reimagination of the Fantastic Four, and it's how you would want comics in the 1960s to have been written.
What do you mean? Other than family writing them?
It embraces it. Leans.
Why would I want that?
Well, it leans into the Stan Lee voice, but it's such an Alan Moore comic. There's still a lot of substance and subtext to the dialogue, and it's obvious. It's paying homage, but also kind of poking fun at those 1960s Silver Age Marvel comics. What's kind of brilliant about it is that it really does have some crazy, awesome scientific concepts to it, but in the Marvel 1960s voice. It's like you just kind of have to read it and go, wow, that was like this, super misogynistic, alpha male 1960s Marvel comic, but underneath it are these super complex concepts about time travel and multiverses. It's neat. It's a neat comic. So I've got to get in and read the rest of them, which I think he takes a stab at Spider-Man and I think the Avengers, but this first one is very much the Fantastic Four, even though some of the roles have been moved around and that kind of stuff. It's an oddly interesting and cool comic, as you would expect from Alan Moore.
One that will never be reprinted.
Probably apparently. Never, I would say.
No, there's actually a pretty boring story about it all. Alan Moore kind of pulled the plug on that after getting pissed off at Steve Bissette.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can read about it. There's a story out there you can read about. Like apparently they were going to reprint.
Yeah, I don't know. I went in. Yeah, but he said fuck that. No, it's cool. It's cool. It's definitely Alan Moore's take on early Silver Age Marvel comics, but there's great concepts in there, and probably a lot of subtext that's his observations on kind of the sweatshop that was the Marvel bullpen, at the time.
How dare you? Yeah. How dare you disparage the great?
Yeah, I would love to hear
Marvel.
the Merry Marvel Clubhouse
marching band.
I'd love to hear Tom's thoughts on it. If you read it, Tom, I think you would. I think you in particular would enjoy this because of your love of Silver Age comics.
All right, I'll read it and I'll let you know what I think.
Yeah, I think you'll dig it.
I guess I don't matter.
Yeah, no one cares what you think about this.
Tom, I talk to this guy twice a week.
I don't really give a shit.
I know exactly what he would think of this.
Oh God! Exactly. Every time you say something, I think you'll really enjoy it. You're gonna love this. You're wrong 100% of the time.
Well, it's just you didn't dedicate the time to really paying attention to it.
What was the last piece of shit you recommended? Utopia. Oh,
did you even watch a fucking second episode?
No. Nope.
No, I refuse.
Terrible show.
I've introduced so many amazing things to your life, and you're going to bring that one up.
Never. Ever.
Liar. All right. Shall we be done with this mess?
Please.
Yes.
I gotta go.
All right, guys. Just a quick reminder: if this was incredibly entertaining to you, you can get even more by going over to Patreon.com.
Somehow this was entertaining.
/Around Comics, where we have all sorts of bonus content. You get me talking to comic book professionals. You get Tom talking about Silver Age comics. You get Sal talking about what he thinks he's going to like or not like. And once a week, you get me and Sal talking about TV and maybe movies and other stuff. We decided this past week that MODOK just wasn't really getting the job done. Tom, a little MODOK face for me. And we switched over to Sweet Tooth. So we're talking the Sweet Tooth now, and I think we both enjoy it. It's good stuff. So you can check that out by subscribing at Patreon and checking out our ACTV. That and we're D&Ding again every other Thursday, I think. So yeah. So you can check out the ACD D&D. It's all that. So all right. So that's business. Anybody
in regards,
anything?
I was gonna say in regards to Patreon, hopefully soon. iTunes is basically launching their own subscriber service to podcast creators, and I've been trying to figure out how to do that. So hopefully soon. Be on the lookout if you're listening to the podcast on iTunes. If you download it on iTunes, you'll be able to subscribe to our bonus content that you would normally only be able to get on Patreon, but you'll be able to do it through iTunes as well, or in replace of. Hopefully,
and we love our patrons. But if subscribing to iTunes is easier for you, that's great. It's a great way to help out the show. We appreciate it.
We do.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we'll be back. Look out for a Tom Versus. Check out the Chris Staros interview that just posted. We'll be
more archive episodes.
Yeah, classic. And all that. Yeah,
classic.
And catch up on Sweet Tooth. We're going to be talking about episodes 3 and 4 in the next episode of ACTV. So there's all that out there. Always email the show, chime in. We appreciate the folks that watched tonight and left comments. We'll be back next Tuesday. In the meantime,
in between time,
we're going to be everywhere and around
MODOK fans.
And Tom. Tom's Modoc face.
Yeah.
Everywhere